What's up, love and marriage crew? Today is going to be a heavy little topic, but a very important one. We're going to talk about human trafficking and just the effects of that, how long it's been around, what we can do to help, signs and all that, what we need to look for. Obviously, human trafficking has been around, they say prior to 1200 was the most common slavery. But in the 1400s, it started at the beginning of the European slave trading in Africa, with the Portuguese transporting people from Africa to Portugal and using them as slaves. So that was the beginning of human trafficking. And the age range for human trafficking goes from 1 to 18 years old. Sex trafficking victims are roughly from 25 years old, are often started as young as 14. Children are trafficked out of or into the United States from all regions of the world and represent a variety of different races, ethnic groups, and religion. So it is, as we know, you can just open your eyes and understand like how serious trafficking is. Obviously, with this Roe versus Wade situation going on right now too, it is definitely a political issue. I know, according to Yahoo News, Governor DeSantis in Florida was quoted saying that he would, even if you were a victim of human trafficking, that would still be excluded. Like you would not be able to abort if you were 15 weeks. So if the abortion ban would include no exception for rape, incest, or human trafficking. So, and then we do know there's so many victims of that. I'm just going to go over some survivor stories that we had because, like I said, human trafficking is just not about sex. There are several ways of trafficking. There's several ways to look at it. This is pulled from the Exodus Road. And this is just stories of 15 people in the U.S. that were victims and survived human trafficking. The first person is Elizabeth Frazier. She was trafficked by her parents when she was just 4 and exploited until she was 23. They believe she had a normal life until she was able to learn the reality of her situation and escape. Now she has shared her story, and she traveled to Florida, and that's where she saw like it wasn't normal to be that. Because sometimes when you're brought up in those kind of situations, you don't think like, is this normal or not? So another one is Jason. Jason was an athlete, and he was on a work visa in construction. He did not speak English, and so he was recruited and forced to work around the clock at an elderly care facility until his neighbor noticed it. So that's terrible. Then we have Barbara Amaya. She was abducted at the age of 12 on the streets of Washington, D.C. by a couple who sold her into human trafficking. She was sold to a man who took her to New York and trafficked her for years. We have Shamir, trafficked for sex to pay her bills. Shamir McKenzie was a student-athlete scholarship at St. John's University in Manhattan, New York. After she got injured and couldn't compete, she met a man who offered to help her pay her mounting bills through physical violence and threats to her family. He forced her into working for him in illegal sex industries. Raymond Labor, he was trafficked in California. He was to pay out a loan. He was working on a visa from Mexico, and so his trafficker, of course, assured him that his salary would be enough to pay off his loan. But when he arrived, he worked more less than promised. He found himself trapped and sharing a single room with 34 other trafficked victims. Liz Williamson, her mom trafficked her at 6 years old. For the next 12 years, Liz was sold to men recorded for child pornography. She escaped as a young adult. Natalia was just 13 years old when she was sent with family friends from Ghana to the U.S. for education and to learn English. Soon after she arrived, the physical and sexual abuse began. She was forced to do domestic work for 18 hours a day without being paid. Natalia was not allowed to go to school, use the phone, or even go outside. Here's another case. Flora trafficked in Louisiana at a garment factory after losing her baby due to not having enough money for medical care. For Melina was desperate to provide for her remaining children. She said that she thought was a job in the garment industry in Los Angeles, and when she arrived, she found that the promised job housing was a lie. Then we got Sherry Carter was trafficked for years before the government enacted the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. She had a child as a result of sexual assault, and in order to protect her baby, she worked in the sex industry for a man called her business manager. After years, she eventually escaped. Now she courageously shares her anti-trafficking advocacy. Angela left the Philippines with promise of good job and legal work visa. She arrived in California with no visa, no ID, and debt from her trafficker that would take 10 years to pay off. She worked 18 hours a day, 7 days a week in a retirement home where she slept on the floor. So these are just some examples, guys. I mean, I won't go through them all, but I wanted to just read all the different examples and just why, like, you know, it's just so real. And here's some signs to know if someone is being human trafficked. They were pretty like interesting because it's like we don't even think like that. But I know one of them was like when a person lives with their employer, they have previously had violence or sexual abuse, runaways, undocumented immigrants, are facing poverty or economic need, and caregivers or family members who have substance abuse issues or addicted to drugs or alcohol. And as far as who are these traffickers, there are no particular race or nationality or gender. They could be family members, romantic partners, acquaintances, or strangers. It could be, I've heard stories of girls that thought they were having a boyfriend and then he just ended up, you know, making her think that they needed money, and she would end up like either stripping, which stripping eventually led to her selling her body. It's just like so many stories of just girls and boys being manipulated into thinking that they're doing something out of love, and it eventually turns to other things. Sometimes how they lure people is with weapons or love, like I said, promises of good jobs, all kind of stuff. If you like, I mean, the signs would be like, if someone promises to pay you and they don't, you know, those are all kind of signs. I want to really look at just human trafficking, like the truck rings. I always wonder why we don't talk about that, because that is a really big thing. The truck driver human trafficking ring that is never talked about. But it is, and this is according to the trucking and human trafficking.com, that human trafficking is a $32 billion industry that often goes completely undetected. Unfortunately, truck stops are a frequent location of trafficking crimes. Although the truck stops are not typically known for being hives of crime, they unfortunately have become convenient and central locations. Victims of trafficking are coerced, forced, or even engaging in specific types of commercial sex acts or labor. Victims fear their abusers as well as law enforcement and trauma. And, you know, these are the numbers, like an estimated 24.9 million people, 64% are exploited into labor, and 19% are human trafficking. And these are like the truck driving. It doesn't get talked about enough on the truck driving industry side. And I mean, let's look up entertainment industry, human trafficking. This is like an issue that is like very haunting. I mean, obviously we know the R. Kelly case, but there is just so much more than him out there, unfortunately. He's just one of many that have has seduced underage children into promises of stardom, and these parents that just want their kids to be famous, they end up, you know, being, having their kids be forced into human trafficking. This one here is talking about Disney's employees. Former judge 108 were arrested in predator seeking prostitutes within Disney. Like, it's just crazy, guys. Obviously there's several websites. One that I found is called globalact.com, and it's very helpful. I'm definitely going to be including the link in my thing to call anonymously or online if you see any kind of like trafficking, and it's all over the country. Obviously it's not a United States problem, it's a world problem. I mean, it's not just in this, it's all over. They said that 2.5 million people become victims of human trafficking every year, and that is what they have counted. There's over 27 million slaves worldwide. So that's just what we've counted. I know that we had the whole Bring Back Our Girls campaign. Let's see whatever happened to that, because, that's one thing that I have a big problem with. Like, what happened to that? Like, we start these campaigns and then they just go away. And it's just like, that's why you just wonder, like, is it all political? Like, why, 7 years ago, like, you never came back, like, nobody ever cared. So what happened with this one? In 2014, the members of Boko Haram kidnapped 276 girls from a school in Nigeria, and there was a global campaign to bring them back. And let's see if any of them came back. It says and this is from The Guardian. It says that in a powerful new documentary, filmmakers allow the lives of national girls free from kidnapping. So let's see how many, more than 4 years later, they spotlight that some of the women have returned, but there's a lot that they still have not returned. The Boko Haram has killed more than 20,000 people and displaced 2 million. So those 276 were just a fraction of how many were actually missing. It's just sad. And I mean, it is great that our country and our government brings awareness, but it's kind of like we launch these big global campaigns and then they just like disappear. And another really big thing is the immigrant human trafficking problem. Like, I know that I've watched several documentaries on people have promised to, like, they've paid to get their people across the border, and then they get like a ransom, and the families have to pay just to get them released. So this is from ICE. And this is what they say. They're saying like what they're doing is like they want to make sure you have your documents and all that stuff before they even rescue you. One trafficker was arrested in Cameroon. It said in Baltimore, a 10-year-old girl from Cameroon was brought to the United States for purposes of domestic servitude and subject to physical abuse and isolation. The trafficker fled the United States and was later arrested in Cameroon. The trafficker was brought back to the United States to serve a 17-year sentence for involuntary servitude or harboring financial gain. The trafficker was ordered to pay $100,000 in restitution to the victims. In Los Angeles, 15 women and girls were forced by a family-run human trafficking organization into prostitution. As a result, in the 7 Guardian, and just like case after case, here's one. And I mean, Black women, we have been definitely, I know I've questioned this, but I have gotten my hair braided, so I do wonder that. But it said in New York, 20 young women and girls were in Ghana were brought to the United States on a visa and forced to work in hair braiding salons under appalling conditions and subject to physical abuse and threats. I wonder about that. This is interesting because I have participated in getting my hair braided, and they do work 7 days a week. And I'm like, I do wonder, like, are some, and the girls are always really young. So I do wonder about that. Another big one is this Wayfair human trafficking thing. I don't know if you guys have heard that. I guess this can go under the whole conspiracy theory thing, but this is by USA Today. It said how an Arizona couple helped fuel Wayfair sex trafficking conspiracy. And I don't know if you guys knew that, but people were saying that Wayfair was trafficking their children through listings of product which inflated prices on human names erupting on social media. And the couple had purchased a $17,000 desk from Wayfair and would share their experience with their followers. And the theory that the pillows and cabinets being sold on Wayfair for thousands of dollars are somehow evidence of a traffic scheme. And it gained traction through July 9th. And people were just posing these cabinets and everything, showing that these were actually names of girls, like what kind of girls they had and all kind of stuff like that. I mean, there's lots of like conspiracies on that and the product list and what kind of girl you can get. I know Walmart was involved in that as well. It is strange that they did sell $12,000 desk, and some of the cabinets were called Naraya and Samaya. Kind of strange. I don't know. Like I said, these are quotes from the New York Post and USA Today. But the moral of the story is there is just a lot of, Wayfair could be overpriced, or I don't know. But I do know that they have since said that those were false. But human trafficking is just real, and it is an issue that constantly needs to be talked about. I know that there are several missing girls. I know right now in Chicago, the human trafficking has been, especially for brown and black girls, have been really like at an all-time high. And a lot of the citizens there feel like that nobody is taking any serious. Like they're more concerned about like Jussie Smollett and stuff like that when they have like a really bad human trafficking problem in Chicago. And we all know that like when it comes to minority children, they don't get a lot of lights. So this is a topic that I really want to talk about. Like I said, I'm definitely going to share more information, how we can stop it, how you can call anonymous, the signs, like I said, that you need to look for. Just caring, guys. There's so many kids and girls living or with families that aren't even supposed to be there, and boys. And, we just have to open our eyes if we really want this to stop, like actual real issues that are going on. So this is just something that I wanted to touch on. I know it's a heavy topic, but like I said, the point of this whole thing was to help people. And so this is one of the ones that were near and dear to my heart. So Love and Marriage is out. I will be posting those links and those numbers if you know anybody that's a victim, and definitely pray over those girls. I know I did before this, and those kids to come home, and, against anybody that is plotting and planning to do things like that to these innocent people. So you guys have a happy Thursday, and Love and Marriage is out.